My name is German. I'm here on behalf of Mixed Behavior and Boss Talks. Apparently, I'm gonna give you guys my testimony, my experience, strength, and hope. Hopefully, this reaches out to the youth, hopefully it helps them in some way, helps them feel or say the things that they felt and that they're not able to say. So, I grew up in a small farm community in the Monterey Bay Area, and it was infested with gangs, and there was a lot of drugs back in the 80s. My family came from Mexico, so they're immigrants, and they came to this country due to inflation in Mexico, due to the American government. You know, so they came with a dream, and my mother, she came through the bracero program, so she worked in agriculture, and they eventually was able to give her papers to be an American citizen. And my father, he worked in the military police. He ran away at 8 years old from his home, because him and his siblings used to sleep on the ground in the dirt. And his father was an alcoholic, and he used to get beat. So he ran away to Mexico City to live with his older brother to be in the military police. So him and my mom were childhood sweethearts. So when they met again in the United States, they got married, and they had 4 children, me and 3 other sisters. So, we lived in an agricultural community, and I feel like when I went to school, I felt like a lot of pressure, a lot of social pressure from a lot of other kids, not really having a white identity didn't really help me. I really had a misunderstanding of who I was supposed to be. So I felt a lot of shame. I felt a lot of shame at a young age. I really didn't like myself. I didn't like the fact that I was Mexican or Latino. I thought I was supposed to be white. We were poor. We couldn't even afford Jordans at that time when they came out. The MC Hammer pants. I really wanted those. I couldn't have those. They just got enough money to pay the rent and feed us. I remember I rotated 2 or 3 pairs of pants, and the baggy clothes started coming out. So I started stealing my father's clothes to have baggier clothes to fit in with the kids. And, these social pressures really, again, made me feel shame. So I felt shame with my parents, that they weren't Americanized. I wanted to be really Americanized. I really wanted to fit in. And there was so much stuff that just really made me hate myself. And I would just fit in with the wrong kids, just to fit in. I remember I was hanging out with these trailer trash kids, white trailer trash kids named the Pendos. They really lived in a trailer. But his parents were like hippies, and they would give him dope to go sell at school. And we would go sell it, They would give us we'd have seeds of marijuana, and we'd grow plants of weed before we even consumed. Before I consumed, I wasn't smoking weed because I was afraid of drugs, because the whole DARE program had me really scared straight. So I would grow these pot plants, and I thought it was very intriguing. I thought it was cool, like, okay, I'm growing pot, but I'm not doing anything with it. And I started hanging around with the gang members because I would watch them, and they were proud Mexican Americans. They were proud Chicanos. They would walk around with their heads high. And I didn't know how they were living. I just knew that was a source of confidence. And I feel like maybe my family, my people that migrated here from Mexico walked around with their head down, because a lot of times they were undocumented. They didn't want to break the law. They were being bullied by Americans. So there was a lot of confusion. There was stuff I couldn't really identify at a young age that I started identifying as an adult. Like, that behavior is messed up. That's colonization for you. So, I started gravitating towards these gang members. And my family even moved me away from the area, because he got a little promotion. They moved me away because they knew we were going to really fall through the cracks. And my parents really couldn't help me with my education because they came to this country with a third and fourth grade education. In Mexico, you got to pay for your books, you got to pay for your pencils, you got to pay for everything. So, they were forced to go into the workforce at a young age. So their work ethic was really strong. And so I slid through the cracks because I was bilingual. I was really learning English. I was really struggling with like real with just being able to communicate. There was a lot of words I didn't understand. I understood "fuck you," I understood your typical motherfucker. Your typical communication. That kids would have. All the bad words, all the aggressive behavior. I understood all that, but I was far behind from these American kids, especially white kids, because they've had a long time to, they've had a big head start in this country. They've had a huge head start. And I'm not a victim, I'm definitely not, but I'm very aware of what it is. And so they moved me away, and I started really I came to this new space, this new place with with those ideas, and I felt like I could reinvent myself to a certain degree. I would, I had a fresh start, but I would tend to challenge the community, because I came from a populated, gang-infested area to another one. And I would say I started off as a wannabe. I really wanted to be a part of. I really wanted to belong. So, I started drinking 40s with these kids, malt liquor, King Cobra, Mickey's. How we got alcohol, we made our parents believe that, we're good kids maybe. I don't know. They would give us money for lunch, and we use that lunch money to buy adults alcohol. Like, hey, if you buy us these 40s, you can have a 40 yourself. Obviously, they just had a hard day at work, and they need a 40. They need a 40-ounce malt liquor to pass them through the day. So that became a habit. Weed was actually easier to get than alcohol. So we started smoking. I was like 12, 13, drinking 40s, smoking weed, running the streets, smoking Bammer weed, brick weed. It was just like terrible weed. It was terrible marijuana. It was really compacted. It was moldy, possibly dusty, chemicals on it. And we would smoke that and would feel different. I'd felt different. I felt like I arrived. All of a sudden I felt tall. I felt handsome. I felt like I had blonde hair and green eyes. I was like, I felt like Brad Pitt, shit. I felt like I could talk to girls. I was afraid of girls. I remember having my first girlfriend, and she kissed me because I didn't know what to do with her. I'm a fucking teenager. I'm a kid, but I felt confident, felt beautiful. She kissed me. She was the baddest girl in school. So I was happy. I'm like, cool. That didn't last too long because I didn't know what to do with her. I felt like alcohol and drugs was easier to deal with. And that's the path my life led down. I really put that before everything. Because once I really started consuming, because I had all these social failures, and I was bad at school. I didn't know how to interact with other people. I didn't want to listen to my parents because, how am I supposed to listen to you if you can't even help me with my homework? I can listen to these people in the street because it's so easy for them to show me love. Like my family are showing me love, but I'm not understanding that. It's hard to relate to them because they're Mexican nationals. It's easier to relate to the homies on the street because we're all American. We have this American culture that we can talk about. We can smoke weed, drink beers, talk about music. Talk about current affairs that are happening in our community. Gang violence, that's current affairs for us. Who got beat up, who didn't. So that was my reality. I put them before my family, and I just couldn't really appreciate, that what it was. Sooner or later, I could not stop consuming. Alcohol and drugs became my higher power. There's a song by Metallica. I think it's on the album, or it might be the song called Master of Puppets, but the song goes, "Obey your master, master." And I felt like I would listen to heavy metal. And I was like, fuck, this is who I am. I'm a fucking drug addict. You know what I mean? I'm a fucking alcoholic. And I'm a teenager. Every day I had to get up to consume as a kid. Like, I didn't go with the objective to go to school to do my homework. I wouldn't do my homework. I had all D's and F's. I wouldn't even participate in PE, the easiest class of them all, because my objective was to go to school, to meet up with my friends, to get high. I wouldn't even eat before I had no appetite. Like, I'm preparing myself to be a junkie, right? So these are things I couldn't even like realize at the time. But if I couldn't get my hands on alcohol and drugs, I remember I would throw tantrums. But in reality, the medical terms was I would start detoxing. And I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand my behavior, how I would start yelling at my mother, at my father, then get my ass whooped by my father. Because my dad whooped my ass. Remember, he was a military police, so he understood physical force. He ruled with an iron fist. He would leave me leaking in puddles of, I wouldn't say puddles of blood, but he would leave me leaking with blood. Like, he used the metal part of the belt to fuck me up, just because I was so far gone as a kid. There was he wouldn't use his hand, he'd use his belt, the metal part. You tell me, don't put your hands in there. My hands, sometimes I would go to school all scarred up. Like, one time he hit me in the head with a walkie-talkie because he was just so frustrated with me. Right in the head, right here. So I was leaking. And I remember I went to school with that scar. People were asking me, what happened? Oh, some gang shit happened. Just brushed it off. And back in the 80s and 90s, also it was a lot easier to go to, like, a lot of Mexican families would commute there for the holidays, like maybe November and December, just stay out there because it's like, they're really religious, I guess. They would do a lot of Christmas events. So every other like December, they would take us, and they took me one year, the year that I was really getting heavily involved with gangs. So I remember going out there with the gang attire, the sports team identifying my gang, or the people I run with in the street. And I went to Mexico, and over there, in the 80s and 90s too, in California, I think the gang culture was really thick. Like, it was really embraced. It meant a lot, dude, to put on a pair of Dickies, or put some Nike Cortezes on, or some Ben Davis. If you put that on, you were pretty much playing with your life. And I understood that. So I would put that shit on, man. And I went down there with that bullshit. And, they had gang members too from America. And they didn't like me. For one, I was American. I was arrogant. I didn't even see that. And I just had the wrong attire on. And I was caught like a deer in a headlight one night. I remember, like, as a teenager, I'm drinking 151 Bacardi out of a bag, just because that's how they would give the alcohol to you, in bags, and I'm sipping it out of a straw, but I'm drinking 151. I'm a kid. I'm a teenager. I'm like 13, 14 years old. Who the fuck drinks 151? My older cousins are giving it to me. You know what I mean? You give kids a beer or two, to kind of get in the groove. But I'm already drinking 151, talking shit to my cousins. So I get confronted, I get identified by like maybe a couple gang members. And they're just mean mugging me, just mugging the fuck out of me. I'm sitting there with beer balls. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? And then I see one of them run off, and then like I turn around for whatever reason, there's like 20 of them. I'm like, fuck. Okay, you want a gangbang? Here it is. So at this point, I rank out. I'm like, nah, it's cool, man. You know, it's like, tell your homie to calm down, man. I ain't want no funk. You know, I'm trying to get out of this situation. Then my cousins come. They're older. You know, I'm a 14-year-old kid. My cousins are like 20, 25. These guys are like 20. So you don't call 911 in Mexico. There is no 911. You know what I mean? There is no 911. You go over there feeling Billy badass, dude. They chop you up. You know what I mean? They beat you up. They kill you. And that was kind of like I got catapulted into the culture at that age. You know, me and my cousin, we both got hit with bricks. I got hit in the face with a brick. And I remember my teeth fell out and I was leaking. And I had a white t-shirt on. So my whole t-shirt was red. And then my cousin got hit in the back of the head with a brick. And then we just got jumped. We were just fighting these guys and they're overwhelming us. But somehow we were able to get these guys off us. And I didn't really feel it because I was drunk off 151. I didn't really feel like, I tasted the blood. You know, the blood has like has like an irony taste, has like a very different taste to it. It's like you can smell it. I smelt it. I felt it. I felt like, you know, I felt bad. I don't know if I felt bad, but I just felt like I got overwhelmed. It wasn't a good feeling, but the alcohol kept me afloat. The alcohol kept me alive. And I remember they left, my cousins left. They left me in the hands of their girlfriends. And they left me at a house. And I didn't want to wait around because they went to go get guns. And I just wanted to go back home. Back to my grandma's house. So I started walking to my grandma's house, not knowing it was probably like 10 miles away. I was just like trying to get the fuck out of there. And I ran into these guys again. Like they were like maybe a mile down the road and they were on their way to go shoot us. But their truck broke down. So I ran into them. And I remember I picked up a stone before I ran into these guys. I had this huge boulder in my hand. And it was pitch black in the middle of the night in Mexico. There's no 911. There's nobody. I don't even think God was there at that moment. God was not part of this. And this guy tells me, you know, it's just you and me. I can kill you or you can kill me. And I was acting to like really get out the situation, but I started walking towards him. I don't think he knew I had a stone in my hand because I was just going to kill him, like hit him over the head with it. You know, I got to get through this guy. I got to go home. And little did I know that my family was coming to get me, but they were like 50 feet ahead of the road and the lights turned on. And I saw somebody in the background with a shotgun with guns, and I don't know who it was. And in that moment, I dropped my boulder and started stepping back, and I started really bitching up, like, no, I'm sorry. And I started like backpedaling, and it was my cousin. He just cocked a shotgun and just shot at his feet. And he told me, calm down, it's me. And I was able to leave the scenario. You know, nothing happened. You know, but from that point on, it was just back and forth for them in that space. And I remember they took me home, and they fixed me up. I had to lay in bed for a while. I had to walk around with a 38 special. I remember, I think I had like 16 rounds, a clip and everything. So I had that to protect me. So my uncle gave it to me. He's all, here, if they fuck with you, this is for you. I'm like, damn. Like, this gun was big. I'm like, what the fuck? This, you know, it's a 38 fucking special, man. I can handle it now, but as a teen, I probably wouldn't be able to handle it. But I had it on me. And these guys would ride around the neighborhood looking for me, looking for us. And that gang war, I wouldn't even say a gang war. It was just a war between two little towns in Mexico. Happened for a couple of years, and I left. I ended up leaving back to my country, America, and that was very traumatizing for me. I still wouldn't shake that attitude, that behavior. And came back to the States and just like came back with no teeth. So a lot of the kids were like teasing me. So I was fighting kids right and left. I was fighting them. Fuck them. You ain't gonna tease me. I don't fight you. So I was known to fight. I was getting them up, and I just started cycling more out of control. I started messing around with like crank, biker speed. At a young, like 14, 15, I was snorting crank with like older guys, just using street methamphetamines, just getting high, man. Just, really taking a lot. Now I'm having a different complex. Now I'm having this other complex that I'm missing teeth, that no one's gonna love me, that like, what's the point of being here? It's just like not caring. Walking around with Jesus peace crosses, and my boys telling me, why are you wearing that, bro? Look at the way you're living. Or taking that off. It's like, I'm not praying to the devil, but it's like, you might as well, be like living like that. So that's how I lived my life for a lot of years. And I remember like there was a lot of different like points in my life or in that time frame where I would try to adjust my using my alcoholism. I tried to kill one of my best friend's cousins because I was drunk, because we got our ass kicked like a week before. I tried to kill him, and I don't know who he was. And then next thing you know, his whole family was mad at me, so I was afraid for my life. So I was like, you know what, let me just stop drinking malt liquor. So I just started smoking more speed, just to be aware of my surroundings, just to smoke. I would smoke weed, smoke speed, just to be aware. And I kind of tried to adjust my consumption. But, I was able to make amends and get out of that scenario. And, I was just not good with people. I remember I would hate myself being in these spaces, like wondering, why am I using drugs with these people? I was raised better than this, but here I am smoking dope with these people with drugs. I remember smoking a pipe with a fucking hooker, like several hookers at different times, just random people, just hanging out with some gnarly people. And I'm a teenager, and and I'm having all these friends, and this is our bond. This is our bond, is alcohol and drugs. This is our bond. I have nothing in common with these people, but this is our bond. I'm thinking some people are my brothers, and they're not. We're stealing from each other. We're sleeping with each other's girlfriends. We're antagonizing each other to be fighting. We all have predatory behavior. The weakest ones get picked off. So alcohol and drugs made me weak, but I would fight through it. And there came a different point in my life where I moved away from that area just because like my life was spiraling. And then I graduated high school. This is all in high school too. So that's wild too. You know what I mean? It's like, this is my high school life. And I was able to graduate from a continuation high school. And I started like really not smoking as much meth. I really started letting that go. I was not smoking as much weed. I actually got into the workforce. My dad started taking me to work in the agricultural fields. And he was a supervisor. So he was able to find little spaces for me. And I was able to like save up a little money, so lay low for a while, just like get my health back together, get off dope. And I just really didn't have I really didn't have no ambition at like 17, 18, 19, not 20. I really didn't have no ambition during those ages. I really didn't have no vision for myself. I didn't know where my life was going to go. I thought maybe I was going to end up in prison or somebody's going to kill me for my behavior. I really didn't know what to do. I really didn't have outlets. The outlets that were there was jail, juvenile hall, Rehab. Nobody wants to go to rehab when you're consuming. Like, fuck that. Take me to jail. Fuck rehab. I don't want to listen to the priest. I don't want to listen to the pastor. I don't want to hear about that shit. I want different paths, and I just didn't know what to do. I was fucking lost. So, during this whole work stint, I was able to gather up some money and learn to network in this new space that I was in. I was able to network with the fellas in the neighborhood. I'm like, hey, a lot of them guys went to jail, prison. I'm like, so I might as well open up shop. No one else is here. Everybody's gone. So I had a great connection. We could all make money, and we did. But I didn't realize that there was a thing called short stopping, that people get jealous. I didn't realize that. I was so ignorant to this shit. So I really went out there just like dominating the market, and I made a lot of enemies, and I caused a lot of problems, and it was short-lived. I made a lot of noise. There was a few wars started. A lot of people got hurt, to the point where I had to I was involved in a lot of gangbanging at that point. Like gangbanging really got elevated for me. Drug addiction too. I went to jail because of my drug addiction. I would do stuff out of character. Like I always got caught for the stupid shit. I was like, I'm not really a person to rob or steal, but I did it. I did it just so I can feed my habit. So when I went to jail, like I got in tune. I was hip to like what was going on. I was embraced by my peoples, and I just didn't see no future in that. But that was my reality. I had to go along with their program, and I did what I had to do in there to survive. And I was able to come home. Then that's when I networked with the community, and we all decided. They decided to give me a space where I can sell my dope for everybody, and I made, friends became enemies. So my early friends became my enemies. Alliances changed. Money changed everything. I remember I was always the one to bring the violence to people. But in this scenario, like I was also burnt out. I was really burnt out. I was really tired. It was like watching this. I don't know if you guys seen this movie called Groundhog Day. But Groundhog Day, this guy just keeps waking up to the same shit every day. Cause he's a dick. He's a dick. He's a real asshole. He's a real entitled fuck. And he just mistreats people every day. And he's very arrogant. And he wakes up to the same thing every day. That's how my life felt. I was just like, fuck. I wake up and like, fuck, I have to go out there and do what I have to do. And I hated waking up. I hated like really going in the street. I hated my friends. I hated the girls I was dealing with. I hated myself. There was a lot of hate. And I remember like after all these serious events, after like really like trying to be a hustler, trying to be a gang member, eventually all that shit came to me finally. It finally came to my doorstep where I had an all-out battle in front of my family's home. And I decided to leave my family's home in that moment to get the violence away from the home. And my family was really affected by that moment. Like, I remember crashing my car, all the guns flying out the window, and my friends just talking about it. Let's go back, let's go recuperate, then we'll go back and get them. And usually that was that was usually my day-to-day life, like back and forth with people, violence. And when this day was different because it affected my mother. I never seen my mother like really she hit her knees because she saw what was going on. She saw the violence in front of her home, and I had a moment of clarity. I had various moments of clarity, But this was one of those very impactful ones where I was just like, fuck, this is really going like, my house is going to start getting shot up. Because if they're bringing it to my house, because my friends were bringing it to their houses. So I'm like, this is really going to affect my family. So I made a conscious decision to get out of that space. I was like, this is all my fault. My family doesn't deserve to deal with the burden of me. And so I decided to move away. I moved to Oakland, at 23 years old. Out of all places in the world, I moved to Oakland. I don't know shit about Oakland. I knew there was Too Short, you know what I mean? I knew there was a Dangerous Crew, you know what I mean? I knew all about it. I knew it was dangerous. And, I don't really have, I remember I came to my father. I was just like, I don't know what to do with my life. Before he moved me, I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. My life is shit. Like, I don't like what I'm doing, but I don't know what to do. And he thought about it for a few days, He's like, hey, dude, if you really want to change your life, you can go to a rehab. I'm like, rehab? I'm like, fuck. He's like, yeah, dude. So I'm like, I'll take it, man. I'll fucking do it. I'm like, I'll take a rehab. And even at that point, I didn't think I had a drug addiction problem or an alcoholic. But I was snorting coke every weekend. And my boys had coke. We had bricks. They had bricks. They were like, hey, Herman, want some coke? I'm like, yeah, not really. Not in the mood today. They were breaking kilos in front of me. We were going to the cartel and getting it. And I went to rehab. I'm like, fuck. I don't understand what I was doing. I don't understand what was going on. But I've always had my emergency God. Like, hey, God, just please get me out of this one. I'm overdosing. Because I overdosed almost a few times. Hey, God, can you please get me out of this one? I'm really I'm having alcohol poisoning. Hey, God, can you please get me out of this one? These guys are trying to kill me. And he would. And I'll be right back out there to the horse races. I'll be right out there ripping and gunning too. And it's like I was very abusive with my God. I was very abusive. He gave me his hand, I pulled his foot. You know what I mean? It's like, I was fucked up. I was just very selfish. So I got dropped off in Oakland. And I remember I threw my cell phone away. So there was nothing good coming from that cell phone. People just wanting dope. People just wanting to hang out. Unsavory people always calling my phone. So I just threw that fucker. I'm like, fuck it. I gotta figure this out. And I went to this Latino-based rehab, out of all places. I didn't go like Salvation Army or any government-funded nonprofit. Nothing. It was just like, hey, there's all these illegal immigrants that need rehab, and they establish something for themselves. So I was expected to stay in the detox room for a week. And after that, they made me go to work and pay my rent. And I had to attend the night meetings. So it was like a sober living environment. And it was just so fucking foreign because I was there with a bunch of a lot of immigrants, from Latin America. And a lot of them didn't like me. They didn't like me because, I'm a gang member. I'm arrogant. They know I have privilege. So they were like, what the fuck you doing? Like, dude, we fucking walked through the desert. We got some of our friends, some of our girls got raped and killed just to come here, just so we can feed our families in Latin America. And you're over here squandering your life. I was like, shit, So the type of rehab it was like direct therapy. If I didn't get up at 6 a.m. and make my bed, they would call it. It was kind of like they would fine you $25 because they knew that money hurt the alcoholic drug addict. So that if you didn't pay those $25 by the end of the day, they would kick you out. So I had to make my bed. If I had a chore to clean the restroom or serve food, I had to do it. I had to learn to serve others. I had to learn how to eat in the morning. I had to learn to take a shit before I went to work. because God knows I love to go to work and take a shit for 15 minutes or half an hour in the restroom. If you add that up through the year, that's a lot of time. That's like 80 hours. God knows we love doing that stuff. So I had to learn to get my appetite back in the morning, because I would never eat in the morning. So I would never do things for myself in the morning. And I would go to work and just it's funny because I didn't want to listen to my parents. I didn't want to listen to the jails, to the establishments, and I finally had to listen to these fucks. None of that would even worked if I completely got honest with myself. That's, we studied the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they gave me some literature, and in one of the pamphlets, it was actually a book called Living Sober. I called it Alcoholics for Dummies. And I would read that book. And one of the things I got out of the book was, before you can even start these steps or even this recovery process, you got to be completely honest with yourself. And going back to my emergency, God, I remember really being in a lot of pain, really being honest with myself, wanting to change, wanting to do something different. Did I think rehab was in the books? No. I didn't know that was an option, but I took it and I ran with it. And faith moved mountains. I was very uncomfortable there. I remember the place was on East 12th and 11th Ave, and it was in these old buildings, and it was cockroach infested. And I was there with rival gang members, and everybody was trying to get better. So it was dude, I had all these challenges I had to deal with. I had to learn to coexist with my rival gang members. I had to learn to coexist with these roaches. It's they live there too, So I had to learn to take direction from people, and the urge of wanting to consume alcohol and drugs was automatically lifted. I didn't from that moment I made that decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. It went away. I completely got honest. And I never did it by myself. I had help. My father, he was in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I didn't even know. He would invite, in their community, they would celebrate their anniversaries, their year sobriety, or their group's, anniversary, and he would invite me to these things. He'd be like, "Hey, dude, we're having a party, man. You want to come by?" I'm like, "Is there going to be beer?" He's all, "No." It's Alcoholics Anonymous. So I'm like, he's all, "There going to be girls?" I'm like, "Is there going to be beer?" He's all, "No, I don't want to go." Because that's how I put alcohol and drugs before my relationships, even girls. I passed up a lot of beautiful women. My life would have been a lot different. Maybe, I don't know what it would have been, but that's not my reality. The reality is that I'm here. And so I struggled a lot in that community, because I also had to learn that Alcoholics Anonymous was a classist thing. The founders of that program, they were white collar. And I started learning about class. I started learning about poverty, about I was awoke now. I was like, oh shit, I'm learning the cause and effect of my behaviors. So I'm like, you don't really get Alcoholics Anonymous in the hood like that. You do get it, but people don't want to go in there. It's like people have this misconception of it, but I started learning what it was, and it was hard to navigate. But I remember somebody told me, man, just put yourself out there. Sometimes you have to get really uncomfortable to get comfortable. So I really white knuckled a lot of shit. I really grinded my teeth. I really just had to keep my faith, And they taught me, man. They taught me about spirituality, about higher power. And that's one I really enjoyed being a part of that community, because they didn't put religion on me. They didn't put Jesus Christ on me. They just told me, have a God of your understanding. And they told me, man, if you want to just fucking curse God out for the moment, curse him out. Be like, fuck you, motherfucker. I am so mad at you right now for having me go through this stuff. But the guy who was talking to me about God was like, dude, don't have shame about that. at least you're communicating to God. So I remember before I would have no communication, I would have no conscience. I just did what I wanted to do. So I started learning to have like a conscience, a relationship with my creator, with my higher power, as they would put it. And they told me that I have to start doing esteemable acts in order for me to build character, because I had no self-esteem. So like I would participate like in helping the group clean it or whatever. And then they say that, the only way that really works is you got to pass the message to another person. So when you start being selfless, and the message is for free, you don't charge people for the message. So I would pass the message on to these people, complete strangers, and be kind with them and make them understand. I don't really have to like talk about my personal experiences in order for them to relate. I would have to scrape the pot. I'd have to talk about my adolescence, the moment where I was almost sexually abused by my neighbor, the shame I felt behind that, so the inappropriate behavior I had with women due to alcoholism and drugs. I had to talk about that stuff. I was just wild, bro, in the streets, and I had to break those barriers for other men to understand, because usually we're filled with a lot of pride. We don't want to be humble. Like, I'm humble as fuck. It's like, I'll hurt you though. You know what I mean? It's like I really let my hair down with these people, because if I gave them a sense of vision or a sense of hope and faith, or like, if this little motherfucker can do it, you can do it too. I gave them hope, and it felt good. It felt good. I felt like the spirituality in that moment, like helping another alcoholic, another person in pain, even if they didn't stick around. It was mostly for me, because I was able to like help myself internally and make myself stronger so I could keep helping the community. And I remember, years past, they also have a young people's community in the Bay Area, this metropolitan area. It's a lot easier for a lot of youth to find some sort of recovery. But out in the outskirts where I lived, in these farm towns, there wasn't really that. Our outlets were jails and rehabs. So I was able to navigate these waters for a long time. And a white man, I remember an older white man he was Jewish. He was from Long Island, New York. The motherfucker has money, lives out there in Montclair. And he's an asshole, a real asshole. But somehow, like, one asshole recognizes another asshole, because I'm still working through myself. I'm still working on myself, because like alcoholism and drug addiction was only a symptom. So now I'm left with myself. So there was a lot of work I'm doing on myself, because I'm trying not to be an asshole to people. I'm trying to be kind and considerate and patient. And, I'm trying to give back to people. And it's hard sometimes, because sometimes you put me on AC Transit or the BART, I'll fight you. You know what I mean? It's like, you're rude, I'll talk shit back at work. You know what I mean? It's like I still struggle with that shit. I'm still physical at times. And I fight with that stuff. And always fight to do the right reaction. So this white man, he starts talking to me about like, we're all seeking out spirituality and to enhance our culture, to enhance our prayer, right? So like, I don't really have a connection with Jesus. I'm like, they used Jesus to colonize us. Jesus was probably black. Was Jesus even a thing? I don't know. There's this Egyptian god, he had his story. There's an Indian god that had his story. But I get the concept of it. It's beautiful, right? So this white man, he takes me to a Native American sweat lodge ceremony. But there was only like 2 or 3 Native Americans, and the rest were white people. We call them crystal gazers. Or like, I feel like in the Bay Area, that's the thing. Like, where there's a lot of appropriation of culture. Like, especially, it stems from the hippie culture. Like, a lot of hippies like are white, and they take a lot of space in those spaces. And I didn't know better, but it felt good. It felt good being there. It felt organic. It felt natural. I felt like I was able to like have a clear conscience. I felt like I was able to grow in that space. It was something so different. and it felt natural. And I did that for like years. I still sweat lodge to this day. I've been doing sweat lodge for like over 15 years, to the point where I was even able to step away from Alcoholics Anonymous and still keep my sobriety because I kept my spirituality strong. I also felt that I outgrew that space because, I was just like having a hard time with the microaggression in those spaces, with the shame that would make people feel when they relapsed. And like, it was just, there was a lot of shame in that space. But I remember before I left, a group of us, we started a people of color AA meeting in West Oakland, and the community had a whole uproar because we used to have a meeting on like 12th and Adeline, but then hella punk rockers. Like, I feel like punk rockers are the first line of defense for the gentrifiers. It's like first they start getting the warehouses, then the hipsters came, then the artists, then the yuppies came, then finally the techies came. And our whole meeting was, like, originally there was this meeting in West Oakland on 12th and Adeline. It was called the Upper Room. It was originally all black folk. And it was supposed to be, it was like their little hub. But even their meeting got gentrified. So like they decided to shut it down because it's like they took total control of that space. So we decided to start a people of color meeting in a different part of West Oakland for the people in that community. And it worked. A lot of people started getting sober there. A lot of people started going into that space. COVID happened, so we had Zoom meetings. So the Zoom meetings started taking it nationwide. Different people of color meetings started popping up everywhere. Everyone started networking. Everybody started spreading the medicine, the message. And, but at the same time, like, I felt like maybe I outgrew it a little bit. I still want to go every now and then, to see my friends. And, but I started getting heavily involved in this sweat lodge and these Native American traditions. And I started really looking at like my ancestry, like, who am I? Like, why am I like this? What happened? I started looking to my people's colonization, who I was before the colonization, and to our spiritual beliefs. We used to pray to the sun. We believed in God and Creator. I started getting involved in ceremonies. And even after a while, I had to pull away from that space because after a while, I was like looking at these white people like, oh, they're taking up a lot of space. It's really colonized. They're really gentrifying our space, our culture, like our way of prayer. And I left gracefully. I stepped back from that space gracefully. And, it's like they just don't know better. It's just like these white people have this void in their heart where they just want to take and take and take. So I remember talking to my friend Brian. He's a Paiute from Nevada. Him and his family live on a reservation. And part of this, I met him at a bigger ceremony called the Sundance. And at the Sundance, it's like you fast for 4 days, and we give blood. There's a lot of piercing going on. That's our form of giving back. That's the only thing we have to offer because we're raggedy souls. This is for our people. We shed blood on the ground. So I pray for my family, for my peoples. So he was telling me about like, help the brown man, help the brown man. Like, they got what they need. Just help the brown man, help the brother man. Help your people. You got to be a leader in your community. So I took that, and I had to get uncomfortable again to get comfortable because I had to step away from the sweat lodges that had a lot of white people. I had to really enhance my spirituality. I really had to behave during that time. I really had to be centered. And I started, I know faith without works is dead, right? That's something I learned in AA. And it comes probably from the Bible too, because a lot of stuff was picked out from the Bible for AA. So I started really like networking out there, finding spaces for myself, finding spaces where I can have my people in, where I can have another space for people of color can grow spiritually. So that's where I'm at right now. It's like I'm really trying to help the brown people. I'm trying to build spaces in Oakland for them, Right now I'm part of a couple different spaces, and and everything's coming into fruition. And I hope my family feels it because I'm praying for them every day that they get what they need. I'm learning to be a humble man. And sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I want to argue with the girls at the house. I always want to be right. And my friend was telling me last night, you don't always have to be right. You just have to be kind. That way you can build a bond with these girls. That way you can have communication with them. That way you can help them. Because if you're always fighting with them, or you always have to be right, they're going to build up a wall. They're not going to want to be helped by you. So I'm learning to humble myself again. I feel like there's more layers to the onion. So I can keep growing as a human being. And so that way I can keep helping my community or whoever needs it. If there's a space that needs help, I'm willing to go into that space for free of charge. Because I believe I was taught that the medicine and the message is free. Because at the end of the day, I do benefit from it. But if this can go viral and touch a lot of youth out there, hopefully it gives them hope that there's something different out there, and there is. There's different ways to go about it. My path is what it is. And there's different paths that people can take, but it's like we all have the same end goal. So thank you for having me. I'd like to thank Boss and Mixed Behavior for allowing me to be in this space. Thank you.